Now to that breaking news out of Poland. The U.S. State Department working to confirm reports of a Russian missile strike killing 2 people. Local media outlets saying it happened in a town near the Ukraine border, about 2 hours north of Lviv. If confirmed, it would mark the first point in the war that Russian weapons have landed in NATO territory, something President Biden once promised to protect, quote, every inch of. Polish leaders holding an emergency security meeting, and just moments ago, the White House confirming to NewsNation President Biden just spoke with Poland's president as the world waits to see what happens next. Let's bring in On Balance host Leland Vittert now. Leland, will this trigger a NATO military response?
A NATO military response against Russia as it stands now, highly unlikely. You never want to speak in absolutes, but dare I say no. Will this likely trigger an escalation of some point in terms of moving NATO forces closer to Russian forces? Will this be an upgrade now to Polish air defenses and the like? Sure. And this is the ratcheting up of tensions that everybody worried about from the very beginning of the Ukraine conflict. And at this point, we don't know exactly what happened with these Russian missiles. Did they go off course? Was this an intentional Russian provocation? Seems kind of silly that they would fly them into a farm, essentially, into farmland, rather than if they wanted to hit something, actually hit something. There's local reports out of Poland that these were Russian missiles that were meant for Ukraine, that were hit by Ukrainian air defenses and then flew into Poland. But these are very, very, very dangerous times, and the chance of miscalculation is both very high at times like this, because all of a sudden Russian missiles fly into Poland, the Poles launch air defenses, the air defenses hit the Russian bombers that launched the cruise missiles, and you all of a sudden have a ball game. So the chance of miscalculation is very high, number one, and the cost of miscalculation is extraordinary and unthinkable.
Leland, you spoke about the ratcheting up of tensions. You talked about an escalation. I want to play a soundbite from earlier this year, as when President Biden talked about what would happen if Russia attacked NATO territory.
America is fully prepared with our NATO allies to defend every single inch of NATO territory. Every single inch. So, Mr. Putin, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Every inch.
All right, Leland, he's saying it right there, you know, every single inch. Is the U.S. now obligated to respond?
The question is, what would a response look like? If you say respond, is the U.S. obligated to do something? Sure. But is that forward deploying F-15s into Poland and putting more Patriot missile batteries along the Polish-Ukraine border? Is that enough of a response? Is that showing force? Especially the Russians right now are denying this and saying fake news, it's not us. It's them. But they're not looking for an escalation here. And it doesn't seem as though they were intentionally doing this. So, yeah, there will be a U.S. response. Does the U.S. go as far as taking out the Russian ships that launch these cruise missiles, or taking out Russian bombers the next time they fly over Ukraine? It doesn't seem like either side is looking to escalate this. And just sort of some inside baseball, the first reports we got of this was the Associated Press quoting a senior military official as saying these were Russian missiles. And then it's taken a long time to get any independent confirmation from either the White House or the National Security Council. They still won't say officially that these were Russian missiles. So this is not something that the U.S. wants to respond to quickly, but they wanted the news out.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.